I know.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I found all of those. I just didn't go down far enough to see the next classes. So that's good to know.
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just here on the homepage of the website. Yeah, keep that up to date.
Okay.
Perfect. Good. I'm glad you asked.
Yeah, there's a lot of information here. It's hard to keep everything in the brain. It's just overwhelming, very overwhelming, but it's very good. I appreciate all that you and Charlie do. And I'm not sure I can continue after October. I'm starting another series in Bible studies. So it'll be interesting to see how it all works out, but I'll probably listen more to the recordings than I can attend class. But thank you both very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Hey, Charlie.
Hey, Scott. Nice to see you.
You too. Gonna be able to come to the Eugene plant-based provider meeting on this coming Sunday?
I am. It's kind of a busy Sunday. From 11 to 2 is pickleball at the Eugene Swim and Tennis, and from 2 to 3:30 is a singles match, and then there will be your or the Eugene plant-based providers meeting later on. So
yeah. Hey, did you watch the Serena Williams last match there, and also the
for some reason
American that upset?
Yeah, our TV didn't actually record that, but we watched her reaction, and we watched we also watched Nadal. We kind of like him and saw him lose.
American beat him. Yeah, it was a pretty big upset. 22 seed versus a 2 seed.
Pretty amazing, actually. So there's been some. They hit the ball pretty hard.
Yeah,
I don't think my
134 mile an hour.
Yeah,
134 mile an hour ace.
138 miles, I think, was his fastest TFO.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I've never heard of it that fast. It's hard enough to see at 120 miles an hour, but 138 is incredible.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, we're about at 7 o'clock, and it's nice to see all the people who are here tonight. We had a good class this afternoon. Played Clapper's video, but I reviewed Ocean Robbins's broccoli blog that he sent out this morning, and that was kind of fun. I learned a few things from it. Tonight we're going to be talking about kidney disease, but it looks like we might have a person or two that might be new. If there is, and you wanted to explain who referred you and what you might hope to get out of the classes, we would love to hear that. If any of you care to just unmute yourself and say hello.
Hello.
Hello, Tricia.
Hi, Tricia. Here, and I heard about this community from my physician assistant at Oregon Medical Group, and suggested a plant-based diet. So I'm here to learn.
Well, that's wonderful. We're thrilled to have you. Thrilled to hear that another provider is referring to these classes, because that's how they grow. And it's because of Scott at Oregon Medical Group. He's been kind of spreading the word around there as best as he can to try to get more and more people involved. So we're grateful for that, for sure. But stick with a few classes. Yeah, stick with a few classes so you can see what it's about, and then you make a decision whether it's beneficial for you. As you see, there are a number of other people who have kind of jump on. Right now, we're somewhere around 20 to 25 people who are coming. When we first start classes, sometimes there's upwards of 50, 60, when people are just, when we've just started a new class. But A lot of people find just going to the archive files is good for them, but there is some advantage to coming to these classes. You get to hear firsthand from other people, ask questions, and whatever works for you is fine.
All right. Thank you.
Have you had a chance to look at the website where the classes are archived and everything?
Yes, I did go to the website, so that was intriguing and part of the interest, and downloaded the diet or menu part, and have a lot more to explore.
Oh, great. No, I recommend people watch the tutorial I have recorded on the homepage, just to kind of give you a tour of what's all on the website. It's about 10 minutes long if you haven't checked that out yet.
Great. That's a good idea to start there. Thank you.
Anybody else new? Okay, recognize most every other name.
And if you're not new and you just care to share something with anybody who is new or who is old, now's a good time also.
Can I say something?
Of course, Trotty. You can say
I got a new book that, look here. Can you see it?
It's called Brain
The
Maker.
Brain Maker. Yes. Are you familiar with it?
I'm
I
not.
got it from the library. Do what?
I'm not familiar.
It's talking about how diet has something to do with your brain and the microbes and so on. And I wrote something down here right quick. It says, Epigenetic medicine, the science examines how lifestyle choices such as diet, exercise, sleep, and stress management influence the expression of our DNA and plays directly and indirectly into the brain health. So a lot of people have brain problems. And so since I deal with a lot of people, I need to be familiar with it, so anyway. So the last one was an interesting one too, I got from the library. So it talked about the virus, the COVID,
Yep.
how it affects people, the anxiety and so on. And to me, I didn't have the anxiety or anything like this. I just go day by day and put my mask on 6 feet apart and, just live my happy life. But with some people, that's not the case. So I need to have empathy with them.
Yes. So as another quick summary of epigenetics, we used to believe that our genes determined our health, that if our mother, father, grandmother had heart trouble, that we were destined to have the same kind of illnesses they had. But we're finding that it's our lifestyle choices that actually determine 80% of the vast majority of whether we're going to develop a disease. And so that's what these classes are about, sharing the science of healthy choices, and then you make the decision as to what you choose to do for your life.
My parents in Germany, after the war, they ate a lot of meat and a lot of rich food. And both of them, my father died of a heart attack. My mom had a major stroke. And here, the same thing, even though I am here, the lifestyle was very similar, except there was more, And so my last cardiologist, he told me lots of eggs, lots of meat, So I did. And I got the heart attack, but I did not know all these things. Now I'm researching a lot of things, read a lot, and I'm much better informed about things. And so I don't want to have another opening of my heart and, another clogging up of arteries. So had I lived in Africa with a different diet, I probably never would have gotten that. So, yeah.
That's very true. And so are any of you surprised that a doctor would give her advice to eat lots of meat and high calorie density foods?
Yes. Yeah.
Are you surprised that maybe doctors don't have adequate education in the benefits of nutrition?
They don't.
They don't. That's the reality. But we're out to change that. We're out to change it for the general public. We're out to change it for the med students. And Scott will be sending an announcement. I think you sent it out this week also about how we're doing a class in about a week, next Wednesday, with the medical students. And we're going to share some stories with them from people who have volunteered to share their stories and try to convince them that there's a better way than just another pill for every ill. So we are trying to spread the word to the.
Yeah, and I have to apologize because I copy and pasted the flyer in there, but it didn't work. So I have the information in the Sunday email, but for this next coming Sunday's email, I have the link in there, so you can just click on the link from the newsletter this coming Sunday, next Wednesday at 5 o'clock when that Zoom meeting occurs, and you can get in there. And there's also a passcode there that you can enter. I guess you don't know for sure, Charlie, if it'll require the passcode.
It's pretty, sometimes I have to enter the password and sometimes I just click on the link and it works. So the password's easy. It's Nutrition and Medicine, NIM. But we'll go through this again with you next week at next week's session, and you'll see it in the newsletter if you want to come. It's a free session, and you might have some fun listening to some of the questions the medical students may have, or listening to some of the inspiring stories from people who are participating. And if we have enough time, perhaps you might want to share a story yourself, perhaps not. But we've got a lot of people who want to talk a lot. So I don't know how much time we'll have. It depends on the number of questions that the students have for us. Anyway, we're excited about it. And thanks, Scott, for putting that in.
By the
Any
way,
other questions?
There is a book out on this kind of a diet from Jason Fung. Are you familiar with it? I read the book and I was convinced it's good, but later on I had more and more health problems, and it showed up later on that, it clogged up the major artery to the heart.
Yeah,
so,
I'm familiar with him. I believe he's more of a low carb, kind of more from the low carb camp.
Yeah.
Jason Fung is what I recall.
Yeah.
So not I wouldn't recommend that.
No. Well, he was all for that, and when I read it, I lost all the weight, but in trade-off, I got the heart problem, so no good.
No good at all.
No.
All right. So we have plenty of people in the room. Anybody else have anything that you care to share? All right. We're gonna, give you another opportunity also. Mary, go ahead. Your audio has some issue. You have kind of like two sessions on. So one of them needs to be closed, I suspect. Do you have it on your phone and your computer? One says it's connecting to audio and the other seems okay. Now you're connecting to the audio. And it's really bizarre. Must be the connection that you have. I don't know. But Or you can type in the chat the question or comment that you have and we can read it out. All right, let's keep going. Anybody else? How many are interested in kidney disease? Anybody
I do.
tonight? Hey,
I do.
so it's a good thing that you showed up. Oh, okay, Mary, it looks like you've reconnected there.
Is this audio better?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I just wanted to say I'm glad to be back. I've been gone for a couple of months here, but I was busy selling the biggest stress of my life, and I am now free of that stress. So I'm happy to rejoin this community.
Nice.
Great, welcome back.
Thank you. I actually sold my care facility, and I am like freer than I've felt in 40 years.
Hey.
Making a living can sure contribute to one's life stresses.
Yeah, well, I wasn't willing to die for it.
Well, good for you.
Good.
I don't know
Good to
why
see you.
I'm not sure why you have actually 3 separate blocks on here. There is
I don't.
one block that we can hear quite well, one that's blacked out, and one that says connecting to audio.
Well, I'm going to back out and try and close them all and start over.
Okay,
I'll be back.
sounds good. All right. So why don't we get started with kidney disease, and we'll have plenty of time for questions tonight is what my guess is, because we don't have an hour and a half worth of videos for a change. We have a few videos, however. So I wonder who we're going to start out with. I'll bet you some of you could take a guess, and you'd probably be right. It's How Not to Die from kidney disease. Who do you think might be promoting that How Not to Die?
I vote for Dr.
Gregor.
Yeah, Dr. Michael Greger. So let's take a
Greger.
listen. Let's take a listen to him.
Kidney failure may be both prevented and treated with a plant-based diet, and no wonder. Kidneys are highly vascular organs. Harvard researchers found 3 significant dietary risk factors for declining kidney function: animal protein, animal fat, and cholesterol. Animal fat can alter the actual structure of our kidneys, based on studies like this showing plugs of fat literally clogging up the works in autopsied human kidneys. And the animal protein can have a profound effect on normal kidney function, inducing what's called hyperfiltration, increasing the workload of the kidney, but not plant protein. Eat a meal of tuna fish, and you can see the increased pressure on the kidneys go up within 1, 2, 3 hours after the meal in both non-diabetics and diabetics. So we're not talking adverse effects decades down the road, but literally within hours of it going into our mouth. Now, if instead of having a tuna salad sandwich, though, you had a tofu salad sandwich with the exact same amount of protein, what happens? No effect. Dealing with plant protein is no problem. Why does animal protein cause the overload reaction but not plant protein? It appears to be due to the inflammation triggered by the consumption of animal products. How do we know that? Because if you give a powerful anti-inflammatory drug along with that tuna fish, you can abolish the hyperfiltration protein leakage response.
I have to stop this for a minute because someone's eating potato chips or something. And so I've got to mute everybody. So just hang in there while I mute everybody, and then we will get the room quiet and go back to sharing and finish the video. Okay. Here we go.
To meat ingestion. Then there's the acid load. Animal foods, meat, eggs, and dairy, induce the formation of acid within the kidneys, which may lead to tubular toxicity, damage to the tiny, delicate urine-making tubes in the kidney. Animal foods tend to be acid-forming, especially fish, which is the worst, and pork and poultry, whereas plant foods tend to be relatively neutral or actually alkaline, base-forming to counteract the acid. So the key to halting the progression of chronic kidney disease might be in the produce market rather than the pharmacy. No wonder plant-based diets have been used to treat kidney disease for decades. Here's protein leakage on the conventional low-sodium diet, which is what physicians would typically put someone with declining kidney function on, switched to a supplemented vegan diet, then back to conventional, plant-based. Conventional, plant-based, turning on and off kidney dysfunction like a light switch based on what was going into their mouths.
That was a short video, but it's an important video. Why is it so important? I think that you may have got the message, how you can turn on and off kidney disease by what you choose to eat. And I've had now, I believe it's 4 people who have actually gone from stage 3 kidney disease to normal kidney function by transitioning to a whole food plant-based diet. And I know a couple of them are in the room right now. And so I'm really excited about that. And I think they're going to probably share their stories with the med students next week. And so I'm excited about that. What aren't I excited about? I don't know at this moment. I'm pretty excitable kind of guy, as you all realize. Okay, any thoughts about his kidney disease, about the acid and basic? And were you surprised that fish is a problematic kind of food? And
Yes.
yeah, so a lot of people do not really understand that. And maybe you were also surprised that if you went to the renal specialist, they'd say you need to reduce your protein a bit when you have kidney disease. And yet the message that we hear so often is you need more and more protein. And where do you get protein? From animal foods. Any thoughts?
Can I say something?
They scared you all off.
Can I say something?
Yes, Trotty.
I used to eat in the winter a lot of fish, and I thought fish is good. In the summertime, it may go bad because of protein things, but this has caused me probably also the stage 3 kidney disease. So now I'm already a year basically on plant diet. I don't know how things are on that because I haven't had the blood test yet. But every once in a while I make a little mistake. Like I had gone to a store and found some German pasta. And I grab it, take it home, and I see there's eggs in it. You know, it's made from egg. So I finish it and no more. Now, the next thing, I get an overwhelming problem with eating chocolate. And I got some chocolate. I ate it today. No more chocolate for a while. So nothing. But why does that happen? Why do I get this urge, this overwhelming urge to have chocolate?
Because it's addicting food, hyper palatable foods high in sugar, salt, or fat, or processed. Just it's unnatural. So it's just except for finding some honey in nature, that's pretty much the only hyper palatable, high calorie food that's available in nature. So our bodies were wired to search out for things that have a lot of calories per bite. So it's that whole dopamine surge. So you get that, feels really good. It's like a drug, basically. That's why when we eat things like chocolate and stuff, we crave it.
No more, but whenever I get that urge, I eat it and I'm finished with it, so, but it's been almost a whole year that I did not need that. And with meat, I can go buy or cheese, no more problem with that. But, for a whole day, I couldn't think of nothing else, and I would actually taste it, so it was crazy.
Are you able to eat a couple of squares of dark chocolate, and will that give you the same?
It was with the cream strawberry in it with a sport, So yeah, and they use not cane sugar, they use beet sugar. So but the sugar in it, I don't know. I was longing for sweet chocolate, not the dark chocolate, so just sweet chocolate. But yeah, I got it out of my system now.
Well, definitely forgive yourself and don't be hard on yourself.
Well,
nobody's perfect.
Where I'm supposed to be,
You weren't eating chocolate as a main meal or as a food. If you're eating chocolate as a taste, that probably is something that you can get by with. And again, it just depends on an individual. Some people who are like have a problem with alcohol, one drink is enough to set them back on the path to disaster, but sometimes that's not the case. And it's the same way with chocolate or any other food that you're really kind of hooked on. You can sit there and savor it, and if you're able to get by and it doesn't otherwise interfere with your life, you're probably fine.
Yeah, probably so, because it's very rare that I ever need that. And for a long time, I could go by and it didn't faze me at all. But this time I didn't even look at it, and it just overwhelming. Like my body craved that. So yeah, it's over with. No more.
So,
but whenever I crave it real bad, I have extra. But I don't need it. No more.
Beth says that she loves chocolate hummus, which might be a treat that might satisfy the chocolate taste that you might like.
Is it sweet?
I don't know. What do you say there, Beth? Is it sweet? She may
If it's not,
she may be on a phone and not able to speak about it at this point.
Yeah, it's not sweet. It doesn't interest me. No, it had to be the sugar and the chocolate in it.
Okay.
And it's a certain amount, and then that's over with.
Okay. All right.
I would like to suggest chocolate chia pudding. I like chocolate also, and when I have a real craving for chocolate, then if I make some chia pudding with cacao powder in it, it really is helpful, and it helps soothe that desire for chocolate. It's very sweet. It's kind of, it's kind of gritty with the chia in it, but I like tapioca type textures, and so it works fine. But look up a recipe for chocolate chia pudding. You make it very simply. You just mix, the cacao powder, plant-based milk, and chia seeds, and you let it sit for a short period of time, and it's delicious to help with a chocolate craving.
Now I'm having a chocolate craving.
Sorry, I had trouble with my Zoom.
Okay, that's all right, Pat.
I could make it. There are recipes. I do buy it, so it does have some sugar, but I figure it's better than, I would not eat a candy bar or anything like that, because I don't, do dairy or any animal products, but I do buy the chocolate hummus.
Where do you get that?
I'm on the East Coast here, but all the grocery stores have it. Like Joseph's, I think, makes it. Cedars makes it. And the food co-op that I go to, but But yeah, I mean, I probably should make it because then I could control the sugar a little bit better, but it does satisfy that chocolate craving, or sometimes even just chocolate almond milk helps with that too. But I mean, that's not necessarily a whole food, but it's a step, you know, for me, because I feel like I've given up so many other things, which most of them I don't miss at all. So
Yeah,
I
I
have,
recently given up the olive oil too because it made me vomit the oils, and
right.
also the walnuts. So I take all that off, and the almonds. I'm allergic to all of that, and so I used to eat all that, but now that I've taken it off, I'm back to normal.
Great. Okay, we're going to continue on, and we'll be back to have some more question and answers. We're going to go to the next video, and we're going to share the screen here. And let's see if I can find what we're looking for. Which type of protein is better for our kidneys? This is another Gregor video.
Between 1990 and 2010, some of our leading causes of death and disability haven't changed. Heart disease was the leading cause of loss of life and health then, and remains the leading cause today. Some things got better, like HIV/AIDS, but others got worse, like chronic kidney disease, a doubling in the tens of thousands of deaths and the hundreds of thousands whose kidneys fail completely, requiring kidney transplants or lifelong dialysis. And about 1 in 8 of us now have chronic kidney disease, whether we know it or not, and most of those with chronic kidney disease don't know it. About 3/4 of the millions affected are unaware their kidneys are starting to fail, which is particularly worrisome given that early identification provides an opportunity to slow the progression and alter the course of disease. So what can we do about it? The Western-style diet is a major risk factor for impaired kidney function and chronic kidney disease, also known as the meat-sweet diet or standard American diet, causing an impairment of kidney blood flow, inflammation, and subsequent leakage of protein in the urine, and a rapid decrease in kidney function. Table sugar and high fructose corn syrup is associated with increased blood pressure and uric acid levels that can both damage the kidney, and saturated fat, trans fat, and cholesterol found in animal fat and junk food negatively impact kidney function as well. The consumption of animal fat can actually alter the structure of the kidney, and the animal protein can deliver an acid load to the kidneys, increase ammonia production, and damage the sensitive kidney cells. That's why restricting protein intake is recommended for preventing kidney function decline, though it may be animal protein in particular, not just protein in general, so the source of the protein, plant versus animal, may be more important than the amount regarding adverse health consequences. Animal protein intake has a profound effect on normal human kidney function, inducing what's called hyperfiltration, increasing the workload of the kidney. This may help explain why our kidneys fail so often. Unlimited intake of protein-rich foods, now generally regarded as normal, may be responsible for dramatic differences in kidney function between modern human beings and their remote predecessors, who hunted and scavenged for meat here and there. Sustained, rather than intermittent excesses of protein, requires us to call on our kidney reserves continuously, causing a kind of unrelenting stress on our kidneys that can predispose even healthy people to progressive kidney scarring and deterioration of kidney function. It's like always revving our engine into the red. On the other hand, administration of an equal quantity of vegetable protein does not appear to have the same effects. Eating meat, for example, increases the workload on the kidneys within hours of consumption, but apparently taking care of plant protein appears to be a cinch. This was done with beef, but any animal protein will do. Eat a meal of tuna fish, and you can see the increased pressure on the kidneys go up, again, within just hours, for both non-diabetics with normal kidneys and diabetics with normal kidneys. If instead of having a tuna salad sandwich, you had a tofu salad sandwich with the same amount of protein, no effect. And same thing happens with eggs and dairy protein, both in people with normal and diseased kidneys. Short-term studies have indicated that substituting plant proteins like soy for animal protein is associated with less hyperfiltration and protein leakage, therefore slowing deterioration of kidney function. However, the long-term effect has not been adequately studied until this study was published in 2014. A 6-month, double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled trial, soy versus dairy protein, and the consumption of whole soy tended to preserve renal function and kidney function, compared with milk in individuals with lowered renal function. Similar results were reported in diabetics. Even just giving isolated soy protein appeared to make things better compared to dairy protein, which made things worse. Once one's kidneys have deteriorated to the point where they're actively losing protein in the urine, a plant-based diet may help turn it off and on like a light switch. Here's protein leakage on a standard low-sodium diet switched to a supplemented vegan diet. Low sodium, vegan. Low sodium, vegan. What is going on? Why does animal protein cause that overload reaction, but not plant protein? It appears to be an inflammatory response triggered by the animal protein. We know this because administration of a powerful anti-inflammatory drug abolishes the hyperfiltration, protein leakage response to meat ingestion. Here's the typical kidney stress response to a meat meal, but here's with the anti-inflammatory drug on board, confirming the role of inflammation in the impact of animal protein on our kidneys.
So some of you might say, well, why don't we just take an anti-inflammatory medicine before each meal, and then we can eat whatever we want? Unfortunately, there are side effects with the anti-inflammatory medicines, like GI bleeding and sometimes decreasing kidney function. So not a great idea. Any thoughts from anybody on this?
It's like
Yeah,
putting a Band-Aid.
Okay.
And you don't
I
feel
was
it.
surprised. I was surprised that my nephrologist never recommended a plant-based diet.
Yeah, so your nephrologist didn't have the same experience that I had 10 years ago when Sanjay Gupta changed my life. He hasn't been introduced yet to the concept of food as medicine. He didn't get any training in it, and that's the typical nephrologist. Now, there may be a new nephrologist coming down the pike that actually does have some understanding about this. So the reason why your nephrologist said nothing is because he had no clue that it would make a difference, and probably still doesn't have a clue until he sees you, until he sees a number more of you in his practice, and he finally gets that connection. You know, these patients, they changed what they were eating, and they reversed the kidney disease they had. Maybe I better find out more about this. So keep reminding him.
When I found out about this diet, I called her up and said, you know, what do you think? And she said, you know, yeah, plant-based diet is good for your kidneys. So she knew that, but she never communicated that to me.
Perhaps because she didn't have the belief that people will actually change what they're eating. Maybe she herself doesn't want to change what she's eating, has read about the facts that there are benefits, but doesn't believe that others will make the change because she hasn't chosen to make the change.
It's kind of like, you know, a doctor that smokes is less likely to counsel their patients to stop smoking. Just like a doctor that eats the standard American diet is less likely to recommend a different diet because they aren't doing it themselves. So that's but that goes back. There was someone made a comment in the chat about, aren't there teaching hospitals doing this now? Yeah, there are actually. So there are lifestyle medicine programs, and there's residencies in lifestyle medicine. And so there are growing numbers of medical schools and things, including Western, where Charlie helps teach. So we're working on getting this education to the physicians so that they can understand this.
The physicians think we don't change our diet. They think we're hooked on the meat and all that, so they don't even bother with it, helping us. And
Yeah.
besides, they may go out of business.
Yeah.
Well, there is a little conflict of interest there. You're right, Patty.
I want to defend doctors for a minute, though, because statistically, the numbers are pretty high for people who do not follow doctors' orders, especially around things like lifestyle change. So
Yeah.
I think the more of us who actually reverse something and get healthier and show our docs that it works, the more belief they'll have. I mean, they get paid in 10-minute increments to see you, and it's hard to educate you in that time frame. So I don't think it's, but there are way more better. Listen to my English here. There are a lot of new docs coming on, and a lot of docs patients. So I'm hopeful.
Yes. I must tell you, over the last 10 years, I've had a number of interactions with physicians at classes that I've given, or just, just chatting. And the doctors will say, Charlie, how can you get people to change what they eat? We can't get them to take their diabetic medicine or their high blood pressure medicine. They're just generally non-compliant. How are you going to get them to actually change something as important to them as eating? And so I explained to him that number one, the medicines they've been prescribing for them have side effects, so it's hard for them to stay on track because of the side effects. And number two, it's not really treating the cause of why they have the disease conditions. So they're probably smart not to have to take those medicines. But the real reason is because they're looking to you, and they're looking to see what you are doing. And if you do not have a belief and you are not living a lifestyle of eating whole plant foods and exercising and setting an example, they are going to see through that. They're going to feel it. The vibe is not going to be there. And you need to be passionate about this. You need to understand the benefit yourself if you really want your patients to change. And that's my pitch to them.
Yeah, this is where I like to quote Dr. Dean Ornish. She says, if it's pleasurable and meaningful, it's sustainable. And so there's nothing pleasurable or meaningful about taking a pill, but when you feel good and you have energy and you actually are getting your health back, and it's pleasurable and it's meaningful, and you have purpose in your life, and this makes you plug into that, then it's sustainable. Then that has value to people. Whereas just taking a pill, there's no one's ever given me a hug in the clinic when I put them on a new medication. And even if it dropped their blood pressure, that was never something that was, oh, wow, this is great, and thanks, doc, and give me a hug. It's like, but I get hugs from patients when they get off their blood pressure medicine because they lowered their blood pressure by treating the cause. So that there I do get hugs, but not for writing a prescription.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's like having a Band-Aid on it without really getting to the cause. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts from anyone?
Well, they mentioned about soy protein, and I just wondered about soy foods. Is that, I don't know, it seems it's been kind of controversial.
Great question. Scott, do you want to talk about soy a bit with Tricia?
Sure. So yeah, the healthiest way to eat soy is in its whole state, which would be edamame. Edamame would be the whole soybean. That would be the healthiest way to eat it. And then next healthiest would be like doing like tempeh, which is just fermented soy. Miso is also fermented soy, and then tofu. So those are the least processed ways to eat it. And then the soy you'd want to avoid would be like isolated soy protein, so protein isolates. So that'd be like processed powdered soy. You would want it. That's not good. But as far as your the concern or the controversy about soy, that's usually related to breast cancer because of the estrogens. And actually, this came out. I just put it in my newsletter, the Eugene Plant-Based Providers newsletter. That came out just a week ago. We had an update on that at the nutrition conference I was just at in Washington D.C. a couple weeks ago, and actually the official statement came out in 2012. So it's been 10 years ago. It's been known for 10 years that soy is safe with breast cancer and it's actually beneficial. So the reason is because we realized that there are two different receptors for estrogen, and alpha and beta receptors. It just so happens that the phytoestrogen, phyto means plant, P-H-Y-T-O, that means plant. Phytoestrogen is the type of estrogen that's in soy products. And phytoestrogen actually blocks estrogen in the places you don't want estrogen, like in breast tissue, but it actually enhances estrogen in places you do want it, like in your blood vessels, in your bones, places like that. That's why because the reason that we studied it more is because we were trying to figure out, well, why in, this is of course before 1980, why was it that Asian women had so much less breast cancer than American women, even American or Asian women that live in America? Why is it such a huge disparity? Because the Asian women in Japan, for example, eat so much more soy than the women, even the Asian women in America. And so that was what caused the more and more study to occur. And we figured out that there's these two different types of estrogen and two different types of estrogen receptors. So the gist is soy is great. It actually reduces your risk for breast cancer. It's safe, according to the American Cancer Society and the International Council on Cancer Research. It's totally fine and actually beneficial.
Great, thank you so much. And soy milk too, or is that's an exception?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be better soy milk to put on your oatmeal or whatever. That would be better than dairy milk, but it would still be a little bit processed. And as long as if you did sugar-free, that would be better. But yeah, it's not like you want to sit and drink glasses and glasses of soy milk. But yeah, a little bit of soy milk or any of the nut milks on your oatmeal or whatever, or your cooking is okay.
All right, great, thank you.
You're welcome. Good question.
Heavy Doug, you have a hand up, or is that from the last time?
Two things. You mentioned a laboratory that you did some self-testing on. You sent something off. Do you have the name of that?
I'll look it up between now and the next video, and
Okay.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. The other thing, I saw an hour video interview of a former championship pro weightlifter, not a weightlifter, but a bodybuilder. And he said he got most of his protein from tempeh and tofu. I was always, I'm really skinny and I'm worried about, losing more muscle mass being on this. And this guy is enormous. And that's what he eats. He eats vegan. He's essentially, well, he said what his diet was, his whole food plant-based for a couple of decades.
Yeah, so you can build muscle. The building the muscle is related to resistance training, and lots of exercise. And you'll get plenty of protein if you're eating enough calories. This is the bottom line. If you're not feeling hungry. If you're feeling hungry, then you need to eat more calories of plant foods. And maybe higher calorie density plant foods, like unrefined whole grains, rice and quinoa, and legumes, the beans or lentils, and potatoes, those sorts of things.
Avocado too.
Avocado is more fat food than it is a protein kind of food. But yeah,
okay.
Avocado will help you gain weight.
Make more calories.
What you mentioned, you brought another question. Is there any advantage to cooking your own beans? I eat beans every meal, and I just open up a can, dump a half a can on top of my whole grains. Is it okay, or is there anything wrong with that?
It's okay. The disadvantage is the taste. When my wife makes them with the vegetables and her famous spices, and she puts her fingers in the beans, they've got a special flavor that really makes it appetizing for me. You want to be careful about the salt content because canned beans oftentimes have a fair amount of salt. So you want to get the low salt or no salt added beans, or you want to rinse the canned beans a couple times to get off some of that extra sodium.
If you have low blood pressure, is sodium an issue?
Probably not so much. No. Any thoughts, Scott, additional?
No, that's good. I get the dollar. I'm lazy. I just eat the canned beans also. We just rinse them off. And because there's so many great varieties and they're cheap. They're only, like at Fred Meyer, they're organic and they're only $1 a can. So, but of course my son's reminded me, because he's a real penny pincher. He's like, Dad, it's 7 cents on the dollar if you make your own beans in the Instapot. So he's like, yeah, he buys the big 50-pound bag of beans at Costco or whatever, pinto beans or whatever, and they make them in their Instapot and they freeze them and everything. And yeah, it's like, yeah, it's 7 cents on the dollar to what you're paying for that, even though it's only, to me, it's like, it's only $1 for a can of beans. It's like nothing, but yeah, you could make it even cheaper if you made your own. And yeah, like Charlie said, they can definitely taste better too.
Perhaps you should get your son to share with you, Scott.
I know, he lives down at Cottage Grove. He does. Yeah.
How old is he? How old is he?
My son is 30. He and his wife live in Cottage Grove.
That's cool. One thing about the salt, or maybe it's the sodium, it increases your appetite, right? For like unhealthy food, or it stimulates your appetite or something. It doesn't salt do that? I mean, maybe not the amount in canned beans, but have you heard that?
Well, some people crave salty foods, but in general, just if they get a lot of, if they're used to getting a lot of salty food, then they a lot of times will crave more salty food. But as far as for health benefits or risks and benefits of salt intake, what I always just like to come back to is if you're switching from a standard American diet to a whole food plant-based diet, you're already knocking out 70 to 80% of all the salt or sodium intake in your diet by cutting out the processed foods. And so having a little bit in your beans or a little bit in the cooking or a pinch of iodized salt on your plate isn't such a bad thing, because you are knocking out the majority of the salt, keeping you at a healthy level, even if you add a little bit here and there.
Okay, thanks.
So here they have a vitamin D test at Walgreens. It's a home test. You can also get it at Amazon. And it's I don't know what the name of it was. I guess I have to look at it a little bit further. I thought maybe it was an error. I'll get back with it. Let's go on to the next. Beth, you have something? No, you just signed off. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Once in every several months, at Trader Joe's, they have sweet plantain chips. It has no salt in it. But if I were to eat some, would it be better if I broke it up into 3 different days versus eating it all up at one time?
Scott, did you get that?
Oh yeah, well, yeah, I guess it depends on what you're eating. It's just for a snack, then since it's a more processed type of a food, hyper palatable food, then it'd probably be better to eat a smaller amount. So I would agree with that. Is that what you're eating it for? Just you're talking about it's a dried plantain, so it's just been baked or roasted, so it's like a chip. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but it's got oil in it.
Oh, okay. yeah, so try, I mean, I guess the less of that, the better, then I would say.
Yeah, I just ate it when I was camping. And so I broke it up into 3 days. And so I didn't know if that's better than just eating it all at once on the first day of camping.
Yeah, I would say yes to that then, that specific scenario. Better to have smaller amounts more frequently than eat it all at once.
Thank you.
I have a question. What do I put in the go bag that I can eat?
What can you put in what bag?
The to-go bag, you know, when you have to leave, let's say an emergency, we have a fire or something, you take your bag and you have to leave. What are you going to put in there for food?
You can put edamame, you could put, they come in packages that are stored for a long period. Edamame, which is soy. And it comes
Which is soy.
So you can do dried fruits, you can have some dried nuts, you can have some greens like kale chips you could put in there. Those are things that you could take to eat.
Yeah. How long does it, you know, the dried fruit had some kind of chemical in there. I looked at it today. Sulfur or something in there. So I didn't take it.
Well, hopefully you don't have any disaster that you have to go on then. If you can't eat any of those things, you got to pray that your life will go on without having a disaster like that.
What I do, I just and water, and I thrive on that.
You have to depend on the local farms. You'll go out and get broccoli, and you'll get corn, and you'll get whatever else you can eat.
Yeah, I have to cook it though. What I mean is eat it.
You'll have to go to the food kitchen to help. Yes, Marcia.
Yeah, it's kind of off the subject a little bit, but this morning I had, about 45 minutes after I ate, which was greens, plain English muffin, nothing on it, oatmeal, and some berries. I was loading the dishwasher and I got lightheaded. Usually, isn't that usually because your sugar is low? Mine went sky high. To me, it's sky high. It went over 200. What could be the cause of it going high?
Your blood sugar going high?
Yes.
Well, for one, the English muffin is, a pretty refined kind of product to eat. It's not. It doesn't grow in nature. It's it's processed food, and so I'm not sure what other processed foods that might be incorporated, which you think might be a healthy choice.
Well, I knew that wasn't, but I had it plain. So and usually, to me, if you get lightheaded, it's usually, doesn't your sugar go down usually?
Well, if you get lightheaded, it could be related to dehydration. So if your sugar comes up, you tend to pee a bit more. You may take some water out of the intravascular system and get a little dehydrated. So that could lead to lightheadedness.
Yeah, I did have to drink, some milk to drink. Plant milk, made it plant.
Okay. So make sure you stay well hydrated with water or tea or whatever it might be.
I'm not sure if I had my tea at that time.
But definitely see your medical provider if those symptoms continue. We don't want to assume it's anything in particular. It's a little bit more complicated potentially. So keep an eye on that.
Well, and it's really difficult to tell whether if your blood sugar is high or low, because the symptoms can kind of look the same.
Yeah, it
Uh-huh.
is.
If you look at a list of hypoglycemia and hyperglycemia, there's very little difference between those two lists.
Okay. Yeah.
Hard to
Yeah, this is high. It ran higher than it ever has, and so, a little concerned there, but I'm okay now after a while. So that was my question.
Maybe your body is telling you lay off from any kind of food that is high in refined food, refined flour, anything like that. Your body's communicating with you.
Yeah, somehow, yeah. Okay.
Okay, I just want to do a little follow-up for you, Doug. And that's, I put it in the chat here, and it's Everwell. They don't have the vitamin D council test on here anymore. It's Everwell at home vitamin D test. It's $69 online, or at Walmart it says it was $52. So you can do the home test and for between $52 to $69.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
But if
Okay.
you tell your doctor you need it, then it doesn't count nothing because the insurance pays for it, doesn't it?
Only if you have osteoporosis.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay, but the insurance doesn't always pay for everything. It's a complicated world. So let's get on to
Yeah,
the video. We're going to do preventing kidney failure through diet. Here we go.
Our kidneys are highly vascular organs. That's why they look so red inside. After all, our two little kidneys have to filter through our entire blood supply, and as such, receive about 20% of our cardiac output every time our heart contracts. And so if the standard American diet is so toxic to the blood vessels in our heart, brain, and pelvis, leading to heart attack, stroke, and sexual dysfunction, what might it be doing to our kidneys? Researchers at Harvard recently put that question to the test. Thousands of women and their diets and their kidney function were followed for a decade. What they're looking for is the presence of protein in the urine, known as microalbuminuria. There's not supposed to be any protein in our urine. I mean, the whole point of our kidneys is to keep the good stuff in our blood and get rid of the bad. It's supposed to hold on to protein, and if it doesn't, that's a sign our kidneys are starting to fail. There were 3 significant risk factors for declining kidney function in these women, none of which come as a surprise, given that we're talking about clogged and inflamed blood vessels. Specifically, diets higher in animal protein, animal fat, and cholesterol may be associated with microalbuminuria, failing kidneys. No such association was found for plant protein, or plant fat. And microalbuminuria is a kind of canary in a coal mine, telling you there's something definitely wrong with your blood vessels. Microalbuminuria and modest decrements in kidney function are powerfully associated with subsequent overt kidney disease, cardiovascular risk, and all-cause mortality, meaning a shortened lifespan. In summary, diets lower in animal protein, animal fat, and cholesterol may be protective against this kidney damage.
Okay, so you're hearing the same message over and over. Let's hear about protein source, acid test for kidney function.
Chronic kidney disease is a major public health problem affecting about 1 in 8 Americans, increasing the risk of disease and death even among those with only mild decreases in kidney function. So low-cost, low-risk preventive strategies that anyone can do are needed to address the epidemic of kidney disease. Diet plays a role in kidney function decline. Specifically, diets higher in animal protein, animal fat, and cholesterol may be associated with protein leakage into the urine, as a sign of kidney damage. And generally, diets high in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lower in meats and sweets may be protective against kidney function decline. In comparison to the diet eaten by our ancestors, not only are we eating more saturated fat, sugar, and salt, we're now eating an acid-producing diet, as opposed to a base-producing or alkaline diet. Ancestral human diets were largely plant-based, and as such produced more base than acid. Dietary acid load is determined by the balance of acid-inducing food, which is rich in animal proteins such as meats, eggs, and cheese, offset by base-inducing food, such as fruits and vegetables. In this national survey of 12,000 American adults, dietary acid load was associated with kidney damage among U.S. adults. Acid-inducing diets are believed to impact the kidney via tubular toxicity, damage to the tiny, delicate urine-making tubes in the kidney via increased ammonia production. See, ammonia is a base, so the kidney creates ammonia to buffer the acid from the food we eat. This is beneficial in the short term to get rid of the acid. However, in the long term, all that extra ammonia in our kidneys day in, day out, can exert toxic effects. Our kidney function tends to decline progressively after our 30s, and by our 80s our kidney capacity may be down to half. Perhaps this so-called age-related decline in kidney function is a result of damage induced by a lifetime of ammonia overproduction. That's just one theory, though. The acidic pH may increase the production of free radicals and damage the kidney that way, and add to scarring. Not only is protein derived from plant foods accompanied by antioxidants to fight the free radicals, plant protein is less acid-forming in the first place, because it tends to have less sulfur-containing amino acids, one of the reasons plant foods tend to be less acid-forming than animal foods. It's because acid is produced by the sulfur in the protein. There's less in plant proteins. So, the more important determinant of the effect of dietary protein on kidney disease progression is the quality of the ingested protein. In other words, whether it induces acid production, like most animal protein, or base production, like most fruits and vegetables, rather than the quantity of protein ingested. Since American diets are largely acid-producing, because they're deficient in fruits and vegetables, contain large amounts of animal products, changing from a standard American diet to a vegan diet may improve acidosis in patients with chronic kidney disease. Under normal circumstances, a vegetarian diet is alkalizing, whereas a non-vegetarian diet leads to an acid load. This is true even of vegetarians that consume processed meat replacements, like veggie burgers. Plant-based diets have been prescribed for decades for those with chronic kidney failure. No animal fat, no cholesterol, less acid load, and helps lower blood pressure. And indeed, if you compare the kidney function of vegans to vegetarians to omnivores, the most plant-based diet was associated with improved parameters for the prevention of degenerative kidney decline.
So some of the messages that you're getting tonight, I have 3 more videos to share with you, but some of the messages that you're getting some repetition here. And the reason you're getting repetition is because some of this is just not easy to understand, and we want you to understand it and get it down. And so I'm going to go back and I'm going to play just a couple more of these videos so we get through this. How to treat kidney stones with diet, because some of you are worried about kidney stones and or have had them and are concerned about plant-based diets. Let's see what Gregor has to say.
Studies suggest that excessive animal protein consumption poses a risk of kidney stone formation, likely due to the acid load provided by the high content of sulfur-containing amino acids in animal protein, as I explored in my video on preventing kidney stones with diet. But what about treating kidney stones? Most stones are calcium oxalate, formed like rock candy when the urine becomes supersaturated. So doctors just assumed if they're made out of calcium, we just have to tell people to reduce their calcium intake. So that was like the dietary gospel for kidney stone sufferers, until this study was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, pitting the two diets against one another, low calcium versus low animal protein and salt, and it was the restriction of animal protein and salt that provided greater protection, cutting the risk of having another kidney stone within 5 years in half. What about cutting down on oxalates, which are concentrated in certain vegetables? A recent study found that there was no increased risk of stone formation with higher vegetable intake. In fact, greater dietary intake of whole plant foods, fruits and vegetables, were each associated with a reduced risk independent of other known risk factors for kidney stones, meaning one may get additional benefits bulking up on plant foods in addition to just restricting animal foods. The reasons a reduction in animal protein helps is not only because it reduces the production of acids within the body. A reduction of animal protein should also limit the excretion of urate, uric acid crystals, that can act as a seed to form calcium stones, or it can create entire stones themselves. Uric acid stones are the second most common kidney stones after calcium. There's two ways to reduce uric acid levels in the urine: a reduction in animal protein ingestion, or drugs. And removing all meat can remove 93% of uric acid crystallization risk. Here's the risk of crystals forming eating the standard Western diet for 5 days, and then switching to a vegetarian diet. Leads to a 93% drop in risk within days. To minimize uric acid crystallization, the goal is to get the urine pH up to ideally as high as 6.8, so a number of alkalizing chemicals have been developed. We can naturally alkalize our urine up to the recommended 6.8 using purely dietary means, namely by removing all meat, which takes someone eating the standard Western diet up from an acid 5.95 right up to the target of 6.8 eating a vegetarian diet. You can inexpensively test your own diet with a little bathroom chemistry, for not all plant foods are alkalizing, and not all animal foods are equally acidifying. A so-called lake score was developed, a load of acid to kidney score, which takes into account both the acid load of foods and their typical serving sizes, and can be used to help people modify their diet for the prevention of both uric acid and calcium kidney stones and other diseases. This is what they found. The single most acid-producing food was fish, like tuna, then pork, then poultry, then cheese, though milk and other dairy only rates down here. Then comes beef. Now, eggs are actually more acidic than beef, more acid-forming, but people tend to eat less eggs at a sitting, so they come in here. Some grains can be a little acid-forming, such as bread, rice, but not pasta, interestingly. Beans are significantly alkaline-forming, but not as much as fruits. And vegetables are the most alkaline-forming of all foods. Through dietary changes alone, we may be able to dissolve uric acid stones away completely, cure them. Now you see it, now you don't. No drugs, no surgery, just telling them to drink more water and modify their diet, such as restricting the intake of animal protein, and the kidney stone was gone. To summarize, here are the 5 types of kidney stones, and the most important things we can do diet-wise is to drink 10 to 12 cups of water a day, and reduce animal protein, reduce salt, eat more vegetables, and more vegetarian.
Kind of an important video, so I'm going to stop here, and if we don't get to the others, we can share them at the last session or the wrap-up session, perhaps. So anyone have kidney stones, interested in kidney stones, want to have a discussion about what to do about kidney stones or how to prevent them, or gout? You know, he mentioned uric acid multiple times, and some of you may be sufferers of gout or know someone who is a sufferer with gout. And so you might now know what the one thing that you could do to reduce having to take gout medicine, that allopurinol. And what might that be? Yeah, whole food, plant-based. I see you verbalizing the words. Effectively eliminate the meat, dairy, and eggs from your diet.
And someone asked a question in the chat about talked about animal protein being bad for the kidneys, but also sugar. And it's like, so there was one of the videos he briefly did mention that highly refined sugar, especially high fructose corn syrup, does increase uric acid, and uric acid is not good for the kidney. Higher uric acid, like gout, it's also not good for the kidneys. So yeah, it'd be good to decrease or eliminate the processed sugars as well.
I have a question.
How many of you were surprised to hear about oxalates, and that if you eat foods with oxalates, the studies show that it doesn't tend to be the main influencing factor? Of course, that's what we've told patients for years: stop eating foods with oxalates. And you know, bottom line is I've even come to the conclusion. I did have one patient who had stones when he was eating 4 handfuls of spinach a day, which are high oxalate foods. And I said, well, I was hoping you'd have greater variety than just spinach every day in your life. So that's what you need to do, and maybe reduce your spinach intake to no more than a handful. I don't know, you know, it is possible to have kidney stones again, but most people are probably not drinking enough water to flush the stone material away before it, you know, kind of forms the stone. Anybody else?
I do. So I can be gouty, and I don't do meat or dairy, but what gets me is tomatoes and asparagus, and that's what I was told to cut out years and years and years ago before I even went whole food plant-based. But I do still eat some tomatoes, and occasionally I eat asparagus. But if I buy a big bunch of asparagus and eat them for 2 or 3 days in a row, then pretty soon my gout acts up.
So I remember you telling me that, but
that was something Dr. Griffith told me, you know, way back when he was still in town. But I did do allopurinol for years.
I'm doing a search on asparagus and gout, and I don't see anything that came up here.
Interesting.
Maybe there is just some. Scott, have you heard about that at all?
No. Also, it's just avoiding the sugar and alcohol and refined flours as well, because of those spike uric acid too. So besides purines, which are in the animal products, some people, you can still get gout if you're drinking alcohol and eating refined sugar or flour, because those also spike uric acid. But in general, people that are eating a plant-based diet don't usually get gout. But there are genetically people that are overproducers and undersecretors of uric acid. So sometimes there's always going to be an exception here and there. But yeah, I haven't heard anything about asparagus or tomatoes as far as causing gout. But
now, apparently it does in you, Laurie. So it says Based on the content of purines, asparagus is normally considered a risky food. Compared to other vegetables, asparagus has relatively high amounts of purines. So too many purines in the body will cause too much uric acid. Apparently there is that association.
Good to know. That particular food, I didn't know that.
Dolly here. Excuse me. I've had gout for about 5 years. First time I had it was in my left hand, and the doctor put me on allopurinol. I've been on that religiously. Haven't had another bout of gout until 3 weeks ago, and it was in my right hand. And the only thing that I was eating that I never should have been eating is just like a serving spoon, a small serving spoon of macaroni and cheese. I'm addicted to that stuff, and I've been away from it for far too long. And it got, that's the only thing I can think of that really got me.
Huh.
But it's fine now. It took about 5 days and it was gone.
Did you need to take any medicine with that, anti-inflammatory or anything?
Oh, I took Tylenol
Okay.
and drank an awful lot of water, but I'm still on the allopurinol, and they said probably the rest of my life.
Well, it's been my experience that a number of people have been able to get off of allopurinol when they've gone totally whole food, plant-based diet. So
Yes, I got off mine.
so you may want to keep track of that, have your uric acid level tested again. But if you're having a bout of gout now, maybe staying on the allopurinol is the right thing to do for a while.
And also there are studies that show that when you're losing weight, your risk of a gout flare-up goes up because some of the uric acid is stored in fat tissue. And so when people lose weight, they often will release some of that stored uric acid and it'll get stuck in their joints and they'll get a gout attack, which sometimes this is actually advice from Dr. McDougall, and I've done this with many of my patients when they're going on a plant-based diet and they're losing weight and they have gout. And and a lot of times they don't even need their allopurinol anymore because their uric acid isn't that high. But then still, it could be just by the fact that they're losing weight pretty rapidly, that can increase the risk for a gout flare-up. And so then Dr. McDougall, and I've done this with patients too, I'll put them on colchicine, just 0.6 milligrams once a day. And that a lot of times will help prevent a gout flare-up. It's an anti-inflammatory, but I've done that with good success.
So that's
good to know.
Yeah, it is. As you get to the point where you become closer to your ideal body weight, and you do your uric acid level, you may be able to get off of your allopurinol. Okay, Nancy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah. Bouncing back just a little bit to the spinach and kidney stones question. I have read that that if spinach is cooked instead of eaten raw, that it lowers the amount available, and that you can hedge against that problem by cooking greens like spinach and maybe some other things. Have you heard this as well?
It doesn't ring a bell with me, but how about you, Scott? Have you heard that?
I haven't. Yeah, I would have to look to see, but that kind of makes sense. But yeah, maybe because just the spinach and beet greens and Swiss chard are the 3 highest oxalate greens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if cooking them makes a difference or not. Maybe it does.
Yeah, I read that in a couple of places, and so I had the question mark kind of waiting in my head to see if that had crossed your path. Okay, thanks.
Well, I'm almost done with a search on that, and it's does it reduce oxalates in spinach? And it says researchers found that steaming and boiling were effective cooking methods for decreasing oxalate content of spinach and other vegetables. Boiling appears to be more effective. It reduced the soluble oxalate content by 30% to 87%. So you're correct. So whether it destroys other nutrients and whatever it is that you're eating the spinach for, you know, there may be some pros and cons to that. So
Yes, that's with everything.
I usually tell people it's probably okay to eat a handful of spinach or high oxalate foods, but I wouldn't be doing 2, 3, 4 handfuls at a time if you're concerned about
Variety,
stone.
good hedge against a whole lot of problems.
Thanks for bringing that up. We're all learning at the same time. Any other thoughts from anybody?
Rhubarb is high oxalate too, isn't it?
Swiss chard and beet greens, so those are the 3 highest, but I don't know about rhubarb.
Yeah, I don't know about rhubarb either. I can see it's easy to search that out. Rhubarb oxalates. And it says rhubarb contains 570 to 1900 of oxalate. The leaves contain most of the oxalate. So the rhubarb itself.
Only the stems.
Yeah, so the stems don't have as much.
Okay.
The leaves contain most of the oxalates.
But the leaves are poisonous.
So you don't have to worry too much about it, I don't think.
Okay, good.
And
it.
It says, how do you remove oxalates from rhubarb? Cooking a food containing high oxalates, especially rhubarb stalks, with milk would be an effective way to reduce soluble oxalate intake for people suffering from kidney stone.
Oh, with yeah, not
almond
with
milk, soy milk, whatever milk other than cow's milk. Okay.
Oat
milk. Okay. There you go. All right. Well, this has been fun. Are there any last minute questions that we have? We've made it through another hour and a half and had some fun with it all, and we can share a couple more videos when that wrap-up session comes about in a few weeks, whenever that is.
Yeah, next week I'm doing lifestyle medicine, and then the week after that we'll have a open forum again.
Okay. Evie and Doug, you have your hand up.
In one of those videos, it talked about there's almost instantaneously change in uric acid if you eat a meat or a vegetable dish. And
The vegetable goes down.
I know it goes down, but there's instant change. Is there? I had in my notes, I don't know if we got from one on YouTube, but lipids going on a whole food diet, your lipids will get maximum, your profile will get better over 3 to 6 months. And I wonder, is there anything that lists all the changes by time that will be impacted by switching over to whole food plant-based? I'd really be interested in seeing something like that.
Gregor might have that information. I've not seen it in any of his videos.
Okay.
And I try not to, I like the fact that I don't have to calculate calories I eat or count carbohydrates or do that. You might be a mathematician or physicist at heart and love to do that with the numbers. So I don't know what to tell you other than I guess you could try to do some Google searches and figure out some of those number issues.
Yeah, I worked for the health department, and a sheet came across my desk decades ago, showed if you stop smoking, by time, all the changes in your body that will occur. And, you know, I showed a couple of my nephews who are smokers, you know, say, you know, if you don't smoke for 5 minutes or 6 months or 5 years, all the the good things that happen to your body.
I always just like the thing I always like to say is what an analogy Dr. Greger always has is like if you're slamming your shin against the coffee table 3 times a day, i.e. every meal, it's going to get red, hot, inflamed. It's going to hurt. And so if you just stop slamming your shin against the coffee table, the body's going to heal itself. And that's what I like to say. That's the example of switching from a standard American diet to a whole food plant-based diet. You just aren't injuring your body anymore, and your body's going to heal itself. And and everyone's going to heal at a different rate. It's not like biology is very complicated. It doesn't everything isn't predictable and on a predictable curve necessarily, but like our arteries clean out and over time, over months, it would be safe to say, but inflammation goes down within hours, and the microbiome changes within hours, and so there's lots of things that are going to change. Just think about how amazing the human body is, and if you just stop injuring it, it's going to get better. And at different rates, at different things, you'll see results. Blood pressure comes down at certain time frame, and lipids come down at a certain time frame, but it's going to be somewhat variable depending on the person. But I just like to kind of leave with that. Just, hey, we just stop injuring ourselves, our body will heal itself.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I have some bad tests, and I'm just curious how long it take for these different things maybe to improve.
Yeah, I've had patients, that drop their cholesterol 100 points in 3 months, and then I've had people that takes a year to drop 100 points, or so it's kind of different for everybody. There's lots of variables.
My cholesterol dropped 90 points in 30 days. My weight went down 10 pounds. My blood pressure, I didn't keep track of that, but it's down in the normal range. And so, there are just so many benefits. And if you read, Greger's book, How Not to Die, or you look at the studies, heart trouble improved or reversed, diabetes, some cancers, arthritis, autoimmune disorders, rashes, the list goes on and on. It's totally amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we can do so many classes.
Yeah, so many topics to talk about, but it's the same message every time, as I'm sure you guys have figured out.
Exactly. Same message every time. More plants, less animals.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts from anybody? I'm going to go back to
that comment that was just made, how it's the same answer, it's whole food, plant-based all the time. It makes you think of a quote. It's like when you're in Sunday school and they ask a question, what's the correct answer? And about 99% of the time you say Jesus, and it's right. So here, 90% of the time you say whole food, plant-based, and you're right.
You're right. Exactly. That's good. I like it. All right. Hey, everybody.
I was surprised.
Yeah.
I have a lot more energy now with a plant-based diet. It took me a while to get completely off. And even when I make a little slip up, it does not show up in my energy level. But I sleep better. Everything is getting on an upscale. And I'm very pleased with the whole diet. So I'm really hooked on it generally.
Keep sharing your story.
I have 2 friends that are on that plant-based diet, and it helps the support.
Great. All right, Scott, it's been fun again as usual, and we'll look forward to next week.
All right. Yes. We'll see you Sunday, and then we'll do lifestyle medicine. I'll do my lifestyle medicine talk next week.
Okay.
Bye-bye, everybody. Have a
Bye-bye,
good week.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
you.
Yep.